Hello and welcome to the Retro Odyssey podcast. I'm Steven, here as always with my co-host Matt. How's it been?
Not bad, thanks. How are you?
I'm all right. Been extremely busy with a new job and getting ready for tax season. So it's things are looking up for the most part. Also been playing some fantastic games since we last spoke. So I had been on a massive tear through Final Fantasy 14 when we last spoke. Almost immediately afterward, I just kind of stopped. Um, and it was, a couple of different reasons, but the main was I just got pulled. I felt the pull of something else, and that something else was roguelikes. So I spent, I think, all of September cycling between Binding of Isaac, Hades, and Dead Cells.
I've not played Binding of Isaac for years. Like, I think last time I tried to go in, there was so much new stuff, I was just lost.
Yeah, that was how I initially felt when I first went back because apparently I had already bought the Repentance DLC, but there was so much stuff, and it took me a while to sift through it. But yeah, I started. Uh, I was basically cycling through those three games for a while. I dug into a few others on the Vita, and then I went and bought the original Binding of Isaac on Steam because it was like, you know, $4 or $5. Um,
That's hard to go back to.
it is, uh, but the music being different is a nice touch.
Yeah, because I think he had a big falling out with the music guy, didn't he? So it's a different person now.
Mhm.
But before you actually stopped playing Final Fantasy 14, where did you get up to? Because I know you said you finished the Endwalker MSQ.
Mhm.
Have you done the patch
And
content?
nope. I didn't get to any of the patch content. I was mainly working on deep dungeons and my solo character. Um, did not get around to the patch content. I will probably pick that back up here in a few months once I've got a little more, well, a lot more steady income. Uh, But yeah, so I got on a massive roguelike kick, and then here in the past 2.5 weeks, um, it just shifted to Pokemon, and I've been uh, going back and forth on a few of the ones that I had previously been working on, and one of the newer ones, and even looking into some ROM hacks and some other things that I hadn't explored before. So yeah, I've kind of been all over the place.
Yeah, at least you've been playing a lot of different stuff.
Mhm.
I'm assuming your brain kind of works a lot like mine in that you get hyper fixated on one thing and you just do nothing but that for ages, and then
Yep.
you get bored and move on.
Yeah, and that's just what tends to end up happening a lot. And I don't like I would love to just stay focused until I finish something, but I don't really have control over that. It also helps when it's something like Final Fantasy 14 or a series like Pokemon where there's a lot of different things I can do to to distract myself and still be in the same like game or game type, um, but be able to do some different things and have some varied experiences. So that helps a lot. So when it's a big series, there's obviously a lot more that I can do.
Yeah, I'm kind of like that with Guild Wars too. There's like so many different things you can do in
Mhm.
that game that it always keeps my interest.
I still haven't picked up any of the expansions, but I'm at the point where I know I'm probably going to. And, well, the thing I did the most when I was playing was the vistas, or I don't remember what they're called in Guild Wars, but the jumping puzzles to, look out and get a cutscene. Um,
Yeah, Vistas, yeah.
I did basically all of those that I could find in the areas that I got to, just because like uh, that was very engaging for me, especially because the you know number one, having a engine that is designed to have jumping puzzles helps a lot with that. Um, but it's also like basically more in your face than the ones in Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy, you've got the sightseeing log, but um, it's easy to forget about. Whereas with Guild Wars, they're on the map, so it's a lot easier to sink some time into that.
Yeah, one of the things that's always struck me as kind of like really funny is with Guild Wars 2 being like having a big focus on jumping puzzles and stuff like that. Guild Wars 1 didn't even have a jump button.
Hmm.
So it's like they went the complete opposite direction with that. I don't like the jumping puzzles. I'll be honest with you, it's not my kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't particularly like the ones in Final Fantasy 14 just because it's much more difficult in a engine that wasn't designed with jumping puzzles in mind.
Well, we've just had the Halloween event in Guild Wars 2, and the person whose guild I'm in, Loranity, she's also a streamer, and there's a specific jumping puzzle in the Halloween event called the Mad King's Clock Tower, which is like notoriously quite hard.
Hmm.
Last year, she did it using a Wii Fit balance board.
Oh
She completed
wow.
the entire jumping puzzle with a Wii Fit balance board, literally just doing it with her feet. And this year, she did it with Wii motion controls.
Wow, that's actually really cool.
Yeah, it took her. I think it took her like several hours to
Oh, I
actually
can.
get a successful attempt. Yeah, she likes doing weird shit like that.
I mean, it's a good niche to be in.
But have you been playing anything else this month?
I don't think so. Like, like I said, I was focusing on a few specific Pokemon games that I had either already had a save file going, or starting one for the newest games. And then I explored a bunch of different ROM hacks. I guess the most relevant of those to talk about would be a set made by a YouTuber called Smith Plays Pokemon. Um, and he basically made a ROM hack of Crystal called Crystal Legacy, and then followed it up with a ROM hack of Yellow called Yellow Legacy. And he's currently working on Emerald Legacy, which is going to come out in December. Um, so I suppose that's a little bit more relevant than just, a bunch of random ROM hacks. But
What do these specific ROM hacks change?
so what he does, what his team does is they basically change the main thing is they change trainer teams. So a lot of the trainers have more strategic teams, or um like, there's one trainer who says that their strategy is an all-out offensive, but then they have nothing but defensive Pokemon. So like that trainer is switched around to be more offensive. Um, and they change some of the learn sets so that you don't have uh the most powerful bug Pokemon in the game not learning any bug moves. Um, and they changed some moves, like they increase they'll change the hit rate of some moves and the power of some. It's basically just going for a more balanced game, but their top level mission statement is to retain the feel of those games. So, they yes, they move some things around, but it still feels like the original game that it's a hack of. So, you're not going in and getting like fairy type and, a lot of the super new stuff. You're basically taking what was available at the time, tweaking it a little bit to make it, play better or play smoother, and then going through and they add some new encounters. Specifically to yellow, they added some post-game encounters, but there's and they add like gym leader rematches, which is something that was in later games but wasn't in the first two generations. So and they have videos up, basically detailing everything they've done, and they have Google Docs with a complete change list for all of their mods. So I can definitely recommend those, especially if you try to go back to the old games and it doesn't feel good, uh, because of how how outdated they can feel. Um, these ROM hacks actually do, you know, they modernize it without completely changing it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
sounds good. I mean, if I was, I mean, as I said before, I'm not really into Pokemon, but
right.
if I was, they definitely sound like maybe the ones to go for.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's one of those things that, uh, a lot of the issue with Pokemon is, yes, the games are all revolutionary at the time, but once you have access to the better ones later, the old ones can feel, you know, I mean, they can legitimately feel bad to play in some cases. So something simple like that, to just do some minor changes to improve things, is it's really appealing to me because I remember that the first two generations were basically my only time in the major like Pokemon fandom. I've always just kind of been on the outskirts ever since. But like I have very fond memories of those first two generations. But you know, playing a more updated version that still retains the feel, it's it it feels more like playing the game you remember instead of the game it actually was.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, there's been other series that have done similar things, um, where a remake, uh, or a fan mod will change a game to be how you actually remember it, because we tend to remember some games significantly better than they actually were.
Yeah, just through like rose tinted glasses and stuff. Same with old nostalgic things, really.
Hmm. But yeah, that's basically all I've been doing. I have no idea how long this obsession is going to last, but I have lots and lots of games to jump between. So,
Cool. Well, for me this month, or this past couple of months rather, I finally made the jump into 4K gaming. and
Oh, nice.
bought myself PS5. So of course, now that I actually have access to 4K gaming, what I've mostly been playing is the pixel art 2D shooter Vampire Survivors.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, because you can get the whole thing for like £10. Um, and they've just released new DLC, which is a Castlevania crossover,
Hmm.
which is actually pretty funny because the original base game is kind of like very, very much Castlevania based anyway. Um, like that's pretty much the whole theme of the art style and the game and stuff like that. But this, I've not spent too much time on the DLC as of yet, because I've only just started in the past couple of weeks, like getting my game unlocks done and getting everything back to how it is on my PC version.
Hmm.
Because I had I've had it on PC for ages. I've had it on Switch for a while, but I have like Switch Joy-Con drift, so it's a bit difficult to play on that. But I think
Hmm.
the PS5 is going to be like my main Vampire Survivors like machine now,
Hmm.
and I am currently working my way through the unlocks. I've pretty much done all of the base game, and now I'm moving on to the DLC stuff and getting all the unlocks there. Um, so yeah, I've been having a lot of fun doing that, and like I said, I've done a bit of the new DLC, not a huge amount yet, but I'm looking forward to dipping into that when I've got all my unlocks in the other DLC.
Hmm. Yeah, I actually uh when I was cycling through roguelites, I actually did go back to Vampire Survivors for a little bit, both on Steam Deck and I put it on my phone just because um it was nice to just grab and play from anywhere. I don't have any of the DLC for either system. Um, but I mean, I still have base unlocks left on my Steam Deck, so it'll be a while before I'm uh at the point of getting into any of the new stuff.
Well, to be honest, I mean the DLC is set up so that you can essentially jump straight into them,
Mhm.
um, because they give you like a couple free characters, one or two free characters, and access to the map straight away. So you can
Oh,
go
okay.
straight in and like start playing on the new maps, from the DLC. So you don't need to have got all the base game stuff
Okay.
unlocked. But it just so happens the way I'm doing it, because I have played all this content before, I am just my brain just wants to do it in order.
Hmm.
So I'm just doing the base game first, and then I'll move on to each individual piece of DLC and like fully 100%. But the main reason that I actually got PS5, as people can probably guess, is for Silent Hill 2, the remake of my favorite game of all time, which came out last month. And I just figured my PC is not going to be able to play this at all. So
Hmm.
I'm going to get myself a second-hand PS5 and just play it on that, which I did. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. It is absolutely not a replacement for the PS2 version. I
Hmm.
still prefer the PS2 version, but this as a remake, this is really solid. I have my niggles with it,
Hmm.
but as a whole, absolutely a really solid experience. Um, there's a lot more focus on combat this time. Like in the original, you can run past most enemies. In this one, every single enemy is kind of a threat, and a lot of times you can't just run away, and you do actually have to deal with them. And the enemies get a little bit obnoxious towards the end of the game, because there's a lot of them in like very tight spaces.
Hmm.
But in terms of kind of like storytelling and the puzzles, all of the areas have been expanded in quite a big way. It's a much longer game than the original.
Mhm.
And in terms of that kind of stuff, I think is pretty solid. Some of the line reads for some of the iconic lines I don't really like. They're decent, they're well acted. The lady who plays Maria and Mary is the same voice actor who did Lina in Final Fantasy XIV. Uh, Very talented voice actress. Um, but I just prefer the line reads of some of the original voice actors' lines for Maria.
Mhm.
Like just my favorite line from my favorite cutscene in that game, where she says, "I'm not your Mary." Just the way that she delivers that with like barely hidden scorn,
Mhm.
and the new voice actress says it in a different way, and it kind of loses something there for me.
It's
That
the kind
is,
of thing that someone like you who has played that game to death will absolutely notice,
mm,
but maybe someone who isn't as obsessed with it doesn't uh doesn't pick up on the difference.
yeah, and I think it is a key difference because I'm probably being nitpicky, but that is one of the most pivotal scenes in the game,
Hmm.
and just it blurs that is one of the first scenes that really blurs the line between Mary and Maria. It's
Hmm.
like which one is he talking to, and just the disgust with which she says, "I'm not your Mary," um, just is just probably one of the best parts of the game for me. But
Hmm.
like I said, that is probably nitpicky, and the rest of the game pretty solid. There is at least one really obnoxious boss fight. Um, Boss fight against Eddie, I hated. That took me a very long time to do, and if I do replay the game again, I'm putting it down on easy
Hmm.
because of that boss fight. Because I'm not I'm not playing through the game on the same difficulty that I did the first time for that boss fight. That's not happening.
Yeah, I mean that's understandable. Um, I mean we've talked before, but I wasn't really into Silent Hill uh back in the day. Um, I did. I mean, obviously we covered it early on. But
First episode.
yeah. Um, but it is one I want to go back and work through. But I will probably just play the Xbox version that I have. Um, let's just say it's not a system seller for me. And I feel like I would be doing myself a disservice to play the remake without playing the original.
I mean, I would. It kind of depends how much you want to tolerate tank controls. I mean, I've never had a problem with tank controls.
Yeah,
Um,
the tank controls I can work with. Um, I mean, honestly, it wasn't that I disliked the game that I wasn't into it. I just didn't really play horror games back then.
yeah,
But no, I don't really have that much problem with the tank controls. I mean, I've got, you know, I did decently with Resident Evil. Um, I think it's mostly just I haven't gone back to it. Um, and because the games don't have that nostalgia for me, it doesn't feel like it's a pressing one to get back to. But I'll come back around to it eventually.
yeah. I mean, I do kind of like hate the discourse on tank controls as well
Mhm.
because people say, "Oh, it's meant to be bad on purpose." It's like it's not bad.
Mhm.
That is that is just how those games controlled back then. and
Yeah,
it's perfectly fine. There might be better ways to do it now, but that is how it was back then, and it wasn't
mhm,
done bad on purpose.
right. No, now what is bad on purpose, and I'm, pretty sure we covered this in that first episode, is, in the original, I believe you had less resources for trying to fight, so it was, you were incentivized to run more than fight.
Depends on the difficulty, but there is actually
Okay.
quite a lot of ammo in Silent Hill 2 compared to a game like Resident Evil.
Okay. Well, maybe I was
So it's
getting
not,
the two mixed up in my head.
but the remake definitely, I kept finding myself out of ammo and out of healing
Mhm.
items.
From an outsider perspective, Resident Evil feels like the one you would focus more on combat, and Silent Hill, like, Silent Hill is more stuff that happens to you, and you're just trying to, survive and run away. Um, but again, that's an outsider perspective based on their reputations.
Yeah, and I do get that. I wish this remake was less combat focused,
Hmm.
but it is what it is. And I still have the original.
Hmm.
That's not going anywhere.
And it does
And
open up some nice other games that you can try. I know there's been some pretty well received games on the PS5 so far. Um,
I mean, there is that roguelike that it launched with called Returnal,
mhm,
which I've heard is, I think generally positive feedback to that. That's kind of like a third person shooter.
mhm.
Um, that's like a roguelike. But I'm not in a massive rush to get other PS5 games at the minute. Just when something takes my fancy.
Mhm.
Like I say, most of my gameplay at the minute is on Vampire Survivors. I think
Right.
I've something like 35 hours I've put into that so far.
Yeah, I mean, the main things I want for PS5 are Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, and Final Fantasy 16, and then I suppose Spider-Man 2. Uh, but I have to actually play Miles Morales still, and still have to get a PS5, which is not happening anytime soon. Uh,
I should actually try and play through Final Fantasy 16 since I am actually going to a concert next year, which is going to be playing the music from it.
oh, that's
So
right, you're going to Distant Worlds next
yeah, they're
year.
playing the music from 14 and 16. So I should try and get a little bit of gameplay in that.
Mhm.
I might have to borrow that from a friend.
Yeah, I haven't heard much about it just because I was trying to not dig too deep and get spoiled on it. But I know it I think from what I understand, it had a fairly mixed reception.
Yeah, I've heard that it's very gloomy and
Hmm.
depressing. But still, I'll get around to it one day. Um, I mean that's everything I've played this month. I mean, obviously Guild Wars 2, which I play daily anyway,
Hmm.
and I've talked way too much about that uh, on past episodes. Um, so if you want, we can get into the games that we cover this month.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I don't think we have any news that's really worth talking about. Um, we can go ahead and take a break and move on to our topic for the episode.
Okay.
We better get back, because it'll be dark soon, and they mostly come at night. Mostly.
All right, so our topic this month, we talked about a Halloween episode, but it just ended up that we decided to go for a franchise instead. And it's just a franchise that is usually associated with Halloween and other horror games. It's the Alien franchise, and we've talked about it at least once before because we played Alien 3.
Yeah, we did the two very different versions of that from Sega and Nintendo.
Yes. Um, in fact, I think that was also a Halloween episode. Um, but this time, we are focusing specifically on Aliens games, and the first one that we're talking about is Alien Trilogy for the original PlayStation. This is, I mean, it's called a first-person shooter, but it might as well be called a Doom clone. Um,
I mean, it would have been back then.
Yeah, it would have been back then, and it to me it feels more like Doom than what I traditionally think of as first person shooter, but that's because I started first person shooters with Halo. Um,
I mean, I would say it's nothing like Doom.
I mean it's definitely in no way as good as Doom.
Oh God, no. But I think what kind of sets this one apart is it kind of reminded me a bit of if you remember the Alien 3 game that we did on Nintendo, where
Hmm.
you had uh you went to a computer terminal and chose missions that you wanted to do and then go into the level and do those missions.
Oh, right.
Kind of reminds me of that because this is one of the first, if not the first, mission-based first-person shooters.
Hmm.
Now, obviously, there are later and better examples, like obviously GoldenEye kind of perfected this. Perfect Dark was
And
another
then
kind of like mission-based shooter, and it has become a lot more standard nowadays.
mhm.
But that's kind of what I mean, where I don't feel like it feels like Doom because Doom isn't a mission-based thing. But this game specifically says here is what you need to do in this level. You've got to find this certain device, or you've got to fix all the lights, or you've got to
Hmm.
clear all the aliens out of the level before you can move on.
Hmm.
And that seems to be like I said, I can't think of any earlier examples of that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know, for me uh the similarity to Doom is mostly mechanical. Um, just because it's in terms of gameplay, it's much closer to Doom than the first person shooters that I'm used to. Because it's not you're not controlling the camera with the other stick. You're just your direction pad, and that's it.
Yeah, I
Um,
wish you were.
yeah, well, but yeah, that is a good point, and I may have already said this, but it kind of reminds me of Marathon, but not obviously it's an earlier game.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can see the similarities there. Marathon is also a better game.
Oh yeah.
Um, I mean, I kind of like this game, but the controls were fighting against me all the time.
Hmm.
So I didn't enjoy it as much as I feel like I could have done. So I played the PS1 version, and this was also released on Saturn and PC.
Hmm.
From what I can tell of other people's gameplay videos, the PC version doesn't have mouse look or anything like that. So playing on a controller is probably your best bet. But this this style of movement I cannot get on with at all.
Hmm.
With strafe buttons being on the shoulders and not being able to have like free look with the other pad.
That's what the bumpers do. I didn't even notice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You've got straight. Well, you've got if you play on a pad with like four shoulder buttons,
Hmm.
you also have run on the back shoulder buttons.
Oh, okay.
That took me a while to figure out. I didn't know that straight away. But yeah, you've got strafe on shoulder buttons. And I think just through muscle memory, I cannot make my hands and my brain work together to control a game like that.
Hmm.
And I know I just said a little while ago my issues with the talk around tank controls and stuff like that, where I was saying like they're not bad. That's just the way that these games were controlled.
Hmm.
This is probably the same with this, but my muscle memory for first person shooters is so tied to mouse look.
Well, and the problem is that Doom exists. So,
Yeah, I mean, but originally, like the MS-DOS version that I played as a kid didn't have a mouse look. I played that entirely with keyboard, and it wasn't
right.
until later on that I actually started playing that with mouse look. But because I've been doing it for so long with mouse look, going back to this, I just could not get my head around the controls,
Hmm.
which kind of like destroyed my experience with the game. If I had been able to kind of like control it with a mouse, I would have probably loved this game
Hmm.
rather than being mildly frustrated like throughout.
Yeah, I mean, I have yet to get further than I think like halfway through the second mission. Um, just because like number one, I kept forgetting to record the password, so anytime I died, I was starting over from the beginning. But it just like I mean, we've talked about I think all I think we've talked about every Doom game except Eternal. Um, and Doom is just so much better, and this just does not feel anywhere near as good.
No, not at all. I mean,
Like like playing this, I'm like, I'd rather be playing Doom 64 if I'm gonna do this.
oh yeah, it does kind of have a similar atmosphere to Doom 64 now that you mention that. It does have that dark kind of spooky atmosphere. I actually felt that the music was kind of antithetical to that. So I actually turned the music off and I found it a lot more atmospheric with the music turned off.
Oh, well, I uh actually didn't have the music going for one reason or another, so I actually can't even speak to that, but it looks like I
Ah,
made the right choice.
yeah, the music's fine, but it's not great. And it's just scarier with the music off.
Once again, Doom exists, so and I know like games like this wouldn't exist without Doom, but I have Doom. You know, I could boot it up right now instead of this.
Yeah.
Um, I mean even I know it's a actually I was gonna say it's a later game. Oh no, Doom 3 is a later game. I was gonna say, even Doom 3 feels better than this, but Doom 3 was the next generation because it was
Yeah.
on the original Xbox. Um, but yeah, I mean, playing this game, it yeah, it's Alien, but eh, if I'm going to be playing a game of this era in this style, I'd rather play Doom 64.
Oh
But that's
yeah,
because I just
definitely.
love Doom 64. That was a fantastic game.
One thing that I did kind of enjoy was like the weapon variety. Um, it has a really good shotgun.
Hmm.
The 9mm pistol that you start with is essentially useless, but the shotgun's good, flamethrower's good, the pulse rifle's good. Um, I didn't get any weapons after that. I got maybe 6, 7 missions in, so I've not
Hmm.
seen like the full entire game. But those weapons are definitely all pretty solid. I mostly use the shotgun because with the aliens being quite fast and erratic, it can be difficult to pin them down with a hit scan weapon like the pulse rifle or the pistol. But the shotgun obviously has kind of like a wider range, less damage but wider range, and that was like my most used weapon. It has a nice punch to it. It has nice weight. Um, one of the better video game shotguns.
Yeah, the only time I wasn't using the shotgun is when I either didn't have it yet or didn't have ammo.
Yeah, and I found out that the game doesn't tell you this, but the boxes in the environments you can actually shoot them for
Hmm.
resources. Um, which I didn't even know until I saw someone else playing it.
Mm. I figured it out because I shot the red barrels, and when they
Yeah,
exploded, they blew up the boxes.
I just kind of assumed that they came from the red barrels,
Hmm.
but they didn't know.
I think I also accidentally shot one when I was trying to shoot one of the face huggers. I don't have too much. Like I said, I did not get very far. Um, the controls don't feel good. There's potential here. I can see why people would have liked it so much, especially given the franchise and the time that it came out. Um, there's definitely potential here. I can see why it would have been enjoyed at the time, but coming to it now with my experience with FPS games, it's not doing it for me.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same. This for me is one that I think would benefit from a Night Dive remaster.
Hmm.
Um, Whoever has the rights. I mean, this was an Acclaim game now. I know that, well, I believe Sega currently owns the license for Alien games,
Hmm.
and obviously the license as a whole is owned by Disney.
Right.
Um, but if Night Dive could finagle some deal out of that, that I would love to see like a proper remaster and port of this because I couldn't get the PC version to work.
Hmm.
That's why I had to have a ROM for the PlayStation. Um, I would have liked to have tried that PC version, but like I said, just was not working for me whatsoever.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just easier to use the console version since I have all my emulation set up on the Steam Deck. Um, so that's generally going to be my go-to for these kind of things.
I'm glad that the game exists. It's definitely kind of like, as I said, one of the earlier examples of a mission-based shooter, but there were better examples later on.
Hmm.
Obviously, GoldenEye and then Perfect Dark hand perfected it. But I can't fault the atmosphere of the game, especially if you turn the music off. It is a spooky game.
Yeah, like
But
I don't think this is I don't think this is a waste of the IP or anything. I think they do, it it you still have that tension because the xenomorphs are definitely a threat. Um, so like I said, this game has potential. I don't think it's I don't think it's without redeeming qualities, and I definitely don't think that it was, you know, a thing of, oh, this is, the IP could be so much better than this. Um, when you look at when it came out and the type of game it is, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, if I had played this when it came out, before my brain had been broken by mouse luck, I would have really enjoyed this, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is one of those games that you cannot actually buy anymore.
Hmm.
So you will need to hunt down like a ROM or buy it on the secondhand market. But if you're after something a bit different, if you don't mind those kind of controls, I would say definitely check it out, but I wouldn't pay too much for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Do not pay uh a lot for this.
And hopefully at some point we can actually get a playable PC port
Yeah, that would be very helpful.
because it was pretty much just the control issues that made me stop playing.
Hmm. But yeah, so if there's nothing else we have to say for that, we can take a quick break and move on to our next game.
Okay.
You know, Burke, I don't know which species is worse. You don't see them fucking each other over for a goddamn percentage.
So our second game is a little bit it's technically outside of our scope, but we make the rules here, so you know, we're covering it. Um it is Alien Infestation on the DS, and it's an alien Metroidvania, which that concept sounds better than it is.
Yeah, I mean, we do already have an alien Metroidvania. It's called Metroid,
Yeah.
and it's like really good. I mean, it's a bit too difficult for me, but I see quality in those games definitely.
I mean, you can tell by the fact that I had not played a Metroid game in uh I think it was 2019 uh was the first time I played one for this podcast, and now I'm obsessed and have played all of them. So yeah, but Metroid games are great. It's kind of hard to compete with that. And this, it's okay, but it definitely doesn't feel as good as I was hoping.
No, I mean, I did enjoy this. I feel like it has a lot of charm. There are a lot of interactions between characters. There's a lot of fan service in terms of like the lore and stuff like that. I mean, Samus is kind of famous for being a silent protagonist, and these Marines in this game do actually talk to each other and talk to people around the place.
Mhm.
So and it does have like some interesting, often funny interactions, as well as being really kind of like creepy and atmospheric at times.
Mhm. Yeah, that's fair. The general way that it works is you've got it's a team of four, right?
Yes.
You've got a team of four that are going in to to give the aliens what for, and Go in, kill aliens, get paid. Um, I won't say it's bad because it is. I think it's fine for what it is, but it's definitely not. Um, it's not what I'm looking for from a Metroidvania. But that's because you know, I've become very particular about my Metroid.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Like with me not being as into Metroid, like I said, they are um difficult for me. So I've not played like a huge amount of them. Um, Going into this, I did like it. Like it does have a very similar kind of progression where you will have areas locked off until you get certain items. In this case, you have elevators that you can't get into until you've got key cards. You have doors that are covered in alien goop that you need the flamethrower to get rid of.
Hmm.
Um, Stuff like that, basically. And like I say, you play as these four Marines, and you basically pick which one you want to take out on the mission. They're all essentially the same. They just have kind of like different personalities, different dialogue. The interesting thing about this is there is kind of like permadeath with those Marines. Um, Once all your Marines are dead, even though you're only playing one at a time, if all your Marines are dead, then it's game over. So you
Hmm.
essentially have four lives, but you can recruit other Marines if like one of them dies, stuff like that. Um, One interesting thing I noticed, like in terms of the box art, there is like a young blonde woman on the cover who is not part of your original Marine team. I'm assuming she's just put there to sell the game
Yeah, I guess so. I didn't even think about that.
because yeah, she is not part of your original team. I'm assuming she's a recruitable character at some point. I have not come across it yet.
That is an excellent point. I didn't even notice that. But yeah, she's not there.
And the one female character that you do start with isn't on this box art. But regardless, like I said, you do kind of like have those essentially four life mechanic, and you go around exploring the environments. They all have different personalities depending on which ones you pick, but they all play pretty much the same. And you come across aliens and like your synthetic android, like whatever's, and it does kind of like delve story wise a lot into the corporate like shenanigans of Wayland
Hmm.
Yutani and how their involvement in this whole thing is kind of like getting a lot of people killed and like fucking a lot of stuff up. So there is a big like plot line around investigating what they're doing and kind of like trying to clean up their mess afterwards. Um, like I said, there is like a lot of dialogue telling these kind of stories, like as like when you're exploring around and about, you can find NPCs that give you like a bit of information as well as talking to like your sergeant over the headpiece, and it is all kind of like I wouldn't say it's canon, but it does build on canonical events, like is set after Alien 3. And you go on the Sulaco, you visit LV 426. So there is kind of like a lot of fan service in that kind of way. So it is for me like a pretty good use of the license.
Hmm.
While I'm on the subject of NPCs, the first area just randomly has a naked guy. You can you can go into like a locker area. There's like aliens running around everywhere, but there's a guy standing next to lockers, just nude and what blocked by a bit of scenery, and he asks you to hand him a towel. Um, weird shit like that. But in the second main area, there are like quite a lot of NPCs around, like just workers in this facility you're in. And what I found really interesting is like you have kind of like a life tracker, like you have in pretty much all Alien games.
Hmm.
Ever since Aliens, like pretty much every game based on that has that motion tracker. And the thing I found interesting is that the NPCs are also on the motion tracker. So you see these little white dots on your motion tracker. You don't know if it's an NPC or if it's an alien. And that I felt was a good use of that mechanic to kind of like keep you on edge.
Yeah, that's a good point. That it keeps that tension up.
It also begs the question of why these guys are just going around doing their jobs when there's aliens running around. But like there are kind of like I said, NPCs around in like certain rooms and stuff like that, which the aliens seem to ignore.
Yeah, I mean it. At the end of the day, it's a game, so we're gonna see some weird quirks like that. Um, but yeah, like I again, I won't say this game is bad. Um, I just wasn't as thrilled by it.
So how
But
far did you get in this one?
uh, I don't know. It's been a while. I don't remember, but I know I didn't make it very far. I think I only made it. Uh, trying to remember, like if I even got past the first mission. I know I uh completely wiped a couple of times and just lost everybody. Uh, I don't remember exactly how far I got.
Well, I think I got kind of like a good way into the third major area, because you go in. Um, I think the third area you've crashed on a planet and you're exploring a facility, which is kind of like built deep underground. And I think I pretty much got down to there. There's like an alien queen that early in the game that you end up fighting, but you end up like shooting it out of an airlock, um, because you can't actually kill it. I did find it interesting that early in the game you are fighting an alien, but then he says the dialogue literally says like, Sarge, I can't kill this thing. What do I do?
Hmm.
And then he tells you to kind of like go around, hit these 6 switches to open the airlock and like get rid of it that way. Um, because I did think like when the alien queen came up on screen, I thought this is surely too early in the game for this. Like I'm not going to be able to take this down, and yeah, I wasn't able to take it down.
Hmm.
But it does have a lot of different enemy types in it. They have like all the different types of alien. You've got obviously the facehuggers. You've got the little eel-like newborn things. You've got the juveniles. You've got the adults, stuff like that.
Hmm.
So you do have like a lot of different ones. You even have in the level that I finished playing on, you have like gorilla ones because they've been fucking around with like gorilla DNA and crossbreeding them with gorillas, uh, which is weird. But I
And
mean,
kind of terrifying.
Alien 3 did have like a dog alien, so it's that wasn't a result of an experiment though. That was a result of a dog getting impregnated. But yeah, it is. I've not been further in the game than that, so I don't know if you have kind of like all these other different animal types. But yeah, there is quite a lot of weapon animal variety there, alien variety there, I should say.
Hmm.
And there's quite a lot of weapon variety as well. Although I will say, once you have the flamethrower, you kind of don't use anything else. Pulse rifle's good, but the flamethrower just melts stuff. And just before I stopped playing. I got a minigun as well, which was like ripping through stuff. So the weapons do definitely get progressively better. Although there are
Mm.
some weapons that you will keep going back to, like the grenades, are going to be useful throughout. But once you get your hands on that flamethrower, yeah, you'd pretty much just stick to that.
Like the shotgun in Doom.
Yes.
It's one of those things where, these games were made, and I don't want to say these games were, cash grabs to, cash in on a trend, because there actually was, you know, there was considerable effort put into these. There is potential in both of them. It's just that you know, the games that these are inspired by do it so much better that
Yeah.
these feel just they feel a little bit hollow. But I don't want to, I don't want to say they're bad games at all, because they're absolutely not. They are better than I expected of a movie license game.
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking as well, Sega do pretty decent games with the Alien license, with the exception
Mm,
of like Colonial Marines. But most of the stuff they've done is pretty solid.
hmm I know Isolation was very well
Oh yeah,
regarded when it came out.
we've actually just had the 10-year anniversary of
And actually,
Isolation.
I think I think the developers announced there's a second one coming. Yeah, there it is. A full decade later, Sega and Creative Assembly are returning to the Alien universe with Alien Isolation 2. Yeah, so that's going to be exciting, because I haven't played the game myself, but I did watch. I don't know if I saw the entire game, but I saw at least most of a playthrough, and I mean, from what I can tell, it looks like one of the best Alien games I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, I actually bought it on launch, and I've still only done about 2 hours of it. It's one
It
of those games that
is
I'll get around to one day.
right. Um, I have it because I think I got it for free on one storefront or another. Um, but um I don't know when or if I'm going to get to it, just because I'm not a huge fan of the sneak around and hide kind of thing. Um, but I mean, it's a great game to watch, and I'm sure the fans will be excited about a sequel, because I remember when it came out and people were raving about it. So Alien fans have that to look forward to.
Yeah, yeah, should be good, definitely. But in terms of the games that we've played this month, though, I did enjoy both. I would recommend both,
hmm
but I would only recommend Alien Trilogy if you can get on with those kind of controls.
Yeah, that's it. They're both worth trying, but it's, you know, go in, at least with Alien Trilogy, go in knowing what you're getting into in terms of controls, because it it is rough. I mean, Infestation controls just fine. It's a DS game. Um,
Yeah,
but
and as you might imagine, you've got kind of like map and all that stuff on the bottom screen.
yeah,
So you can always have that up.
yeah. So I would say, if they sound interesting, give them a try. Um, I don't think you can legitimately buy either one of them.
No, probably not. I mean, I have a multi-cart for my Nintendo DS.
hmm
And so I loaded it up to see if Aliens Infestation was on there, and it's literally the very first game on that list. So yeah, I was quite happy to find that it was on there.
hmm But yeah, I've said before, I don't have as strong of a tie to the series, but I know how passionate that fan base can be, and if Aliens is your thing, you could do worse than these games, mostly because Colonial Marines exists.
Yeah.
But yeah, these are perfectly playable. They are certainly enjoyable if you have uh if you have that passion for the Alien franchise, then definitely check these out. Just like I said, be aware of the controls for trilogy, because it's rough if you're not used to it.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think that's about all we have. So we're gonna take a break and then come back to finish up.
Okay.
Get away from her, you bitch!
All right, so that is our alien focused episode. Obviously, we'll eventually have more of these games to talk about. Heck, we might cover Alien Isolation at some point. But I will say, I said before, I'll say it again. These were better than I expected for movie licenses. So, I can't really be upset about that.
Yeah, and I definitely I think I enjoyed both games more than you did as well. So
Mhm.
yeah, I would absolutely I would say both are worth looking into.
Yeah, and it's, like I said, if you're into Alien, these definitely have a lot for you. So, that's all we have to say for those. Once again, I I can't promise exactly when we'll be back, but we will be back. And until then, all we have to say is goodbye. So goodbye.
Goodbye.
That's it, man. It's game over, man. It's game over.